And we're back. Hello again, everyone. And I hope you had an awesome hour blogging like crazy. Looks like Thomas is back. Thomas, are you okay?
I survived, yes.
Survived. Okay, good. I hope everyone else survived as well. I know Debbie Stagelin was in the challenge with us. She was grinding it out, and so was Carrie Ann Foster. So kudos to those of you who grounded out with us. And so for the next 15 minutes or so, 10 minutes, we're going to talk about what we wrote, what our experience was, and if you would. We're back. Hello again, everyone. And I'm hearing myself. That's weird. Sorry about that. So, Thomas, this was your first time participating, so I would love to hear how it went for you. How'd you do? I didn't see your comments in the comments section, so I just assumed you were locked in.
Yeah, I went. Is my mic on? Are you picking me up?
I'm picking you up,
Okay,
loud and clear.
Oh, yeah. So what I did, I had a couple articles that I knew I needed to work on, but one, this week I've been trying to catch up on all of my article write-ups. Hey, Carrie Ann!
There's Carrie Ann. Hello.
On my article write-ups for my social theory shows. So I needed to get the one for Mia Voss written up today. So in the time allotted to us, I was able to do the write-up for that show. The total article came to a little over 600 words, but part of that was a timeline that I'd already written before, so I think my actual word count that I added in was approximately 450 that I added to stuff that wasn't there previously. Created the graphic for it, inserted the YouTube video, and my subscribe embed link, and was able to actually publish it and set it up on. I was able to go back and edit it, and then publish it on the blog and set it up with Triber so that it was set up the way I wanted it to be set up. And I'll tell you this, Dustn.tv. The first thing I did as soon as we got off here was not to sit down and start writing. I went over and I checked out Desk. And I got Desk and did the whole write-up and set that up real quick and did the whole write-up on
Boom Sauce,
which actually was saved a lot of time because the editing that I was able to do in the thing itself, even with a little bit of a learning curve with it, although it turned out to be rather simple, I was able to do the editing right there, which saved having to go back and do all of my link tracking and heading tags and all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's really great. I used to one thing I really love about it is, again, the minimal interface, but if you're using the WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get editor. You have two options, WYSIWYG or Markdown if you're a Markdown person. I use the WYSIWYG now, but when you highlight a sentence or a word, you get that little text editor option.
Right on the thing.
Yeah, right there for that little section. So it's not bothering you if you don't need it. You just highlight, choose, link or quote or whatever. Love it. John Saddington, I'll be expecting a check in the mail.
Yeah, the only thing I would have liked to see different on it actually was, some of the minimal editors that I've used in the past do a good job of keeping where you're writing at the center of the screen. So that it's right, so you can see it clearly. This one here, it goes down. You kind of have to just scroll up, so you wind up at the bottom. I would have liked to see it at the center, or at least have the opportunity to put it there. But other than that, man, it's great.
Yeah, I love it. Carrie Ann, thank you so much for joining us here live in the show. Tell us, you were participating with us.
I
was. Coffee this morning. Can you tell?
I can.
So tell us, what was your experience? How'd you like it?
I loved it. It was a little bit of get up and go and try to, push out as much content as I possibly could without thinking too much, which didn't work very well. I actually thought quite a bit. I came up with, I only made it through like half of a blog post.
That's cool. That's totally fine.
And part of my problem is that I am unable to write 300 to 500 word blog posts. My normal average is anywhere between 1,000 to 1,500 words. So,
I hear you.
you know,
I'm the
it
same
was
way.
just so it was just really once I started going, it was just really difficult to go. Okay, I can't shorten this. There's just so much more I need to put into this. So it was. And like Thomas, I went and checked out Desk, but of course I'm not a Mac user, so that was rather disappointing.
Sad day.
Yeah, you really need to catch up with the Apple over there, Carrie Ann Foster. But I weep for you. But I still like you.
Well, thank you.
Still like you as a person. No judgments about you individually, but get with the program. Come on now.
Hey, is there a big learning curve to going over to Mac?
Not really. I mean, I don't think so, but I tend to be a little tech savvy on the tech savvy side.
There's a little bit of an unlearning curve, actually.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's pretty.
Because Mac it's designed to be more intuitive. So if you're really used to a PC, you don't think in terms of, well, how would a person normally want to do stuff? You think, okay, how would I do this as a computer? And and so you kind of have to start acting like a person again when dealing with technology, which is the biggest thing. But once you kind of transition into, well, if I wasn't doing this on a computer, how would I normally go about it? Then you tend to find the way that they set things up a little more.
Yeah, I love Mac. I think I transitioned 3 years ago now to all Apple products, and I've loved it so far. But I'm a designer, and I geek out over the fine little details of things, and marketing or no marketing, Apple has sold me on their craftsmanship. And I love it. It's like you said, Thomas. It's just natural. It's intuitive for me. So definitely worth a try. Carrie Ann, go to an Apple store and just play with stuff. That's what I do that frequently, and I own Apple products. I just go there to play around. But Debbie's in the audience. She has a question I want to make sure we get to. So Thomas, if I start rattling off on a tangent, make sure we get to Debbie's question. But real briefly, wanted to talk about what I did. I managed to fully draft 2 blog posts. I think the first one here is not 2,000 words. No, that's the wrong one. Wait.
Say you drafted 2,000 word articles in an hour.
No, sorry. This first one is 530 words. I'm looking at the character count, 2,813 characters. I was like, I don't think I wrote that many words. 530 words. And this one is a little trick that I use to monitor how many views each of my posts get on Google+. There's a little trick. It's pretty obvious, but if you're not thinking in terms of getting, measuring how many views you're getting, you may not be thinking of it. That's going to publish on Tuesday. The other one I wrote is I'm not sold on the title yet, but the concept is stop writing for everyone. And big idea there is to if you try to write for everyone, you end up writing for no one. That one is currently 326 words. The draft is completed, the thought is finalized, but there's some little things in there that I would like to go back in and tweak and add and finalize. Definitely got an image for both, courtesy of found exactly what I was looking for on PicJumbo today. I was searching blog photo real quick, and then my own images just wasn't finding the right fit, and found 2 great photos on PicJumbo. So that's my story. I can tell I'm a little bit rusty. When we did our last blogging challenge, I think I was able to crank out about 3 in an hour. But so I've got to work these muscles out a little bit.
When you do that, what is your typical word count when you're cranking out 3 in an hour? How many words you could write for that?
I think they were between 650 and 750 on average for my last. Once I got the hang of really cranking them out. But a lot of these, like the ideas were already there, either the title or at least the first few sentences or the first paragraph. because I got into this mode, and we bloggers, we should get into this mode where we're always thinking of ideas and always capturing ideas. And so I had no shortage of ideas and concepts, and still don't really. But you know, I haven't been into the habit of, you know, productivity mode. I've been fortunate enough to where I work from home, and my profession is, you know, blogging and marketing and design, and you know, I work with a company where that's digital marketing is what we do, and blogging is a big part of it. So I can take my time with stuff. Whereas before, I was working a full-time job for someone else that had nothing to do with blogging, and you know, I had maybe a couple hours in the morning before work, and then, you know, maybe a few hours at night if I wasn't completely exhausted. So I had to be super productive. But yeah, I'm excited to get these muscles, these finger muscles, back in gear and get my brain working faster. So Debbie has a question. Oh, and she said she drafted one at 1,028 words, and another she almost got to 300 words. Well done.
Nice.
Wow.
Over 1,000 words, 2 posts. Good on you. Did you get images in there, Debbie? That was part of the guidelines. You better get those images. But she has a question about Triber. She says, I am on there and linked, but what should I know about setting up a post so it looks good and has a photo? Mine never have any graphics, and I think they get more traffic when they have one. Do I have to add that in manually each time? Thomas, you get to answer that question?
Yeah, you're right. They do get more traffic when they have images. And when I said that when I mentioned a minute ago that I published it and then went over and set it up on Triber, what I do is I go in and I manually add images. Now here's the thing with WordPress. It's a little bit weird. Some themes have ways that they work around this. But the basic thing with WordPress, it doesn't send your featured images to your RSS feed. So when you have something like Triber that pulls it in from your RSS feed in order to have the thing there so that people are able to curate it, there won't be an image there naturally. So here's what I do that actually makes this easier in terms of putting the video in, or the image in. I bring up I bring up my article, and I right-click the image. Now I use Photon, which is through Jetpack, so it's a free CDN that really optimizes how your images load and stuff on the front end. And so when I right-click that image and click Get Image URL, and when that pops up, that usually will bring me the URL from the Photon CDN. So I'll just hop over to Triber, click Add Image, and it asks you for a spot in there for the URL, if you want to do it that way. And I just drop that URL right in there and set my width at 600 and drop that right into Triber. So it winds up being super fast. So the other thing, though, that I do on Triber, because I use social warfare also, and I like to set up throughout there some of the click-to-tweet boxes. Those don't transfer over very well to an RSS feed because that's just how WordPress works. So I actually go in and I figure out I have an intro to any of my articles, and at the end of that intro, right after it introduces what the article's about, I delete everything after that, and I include a link that says read the full article here, and it links back to my actual article, so that people. Otherwise, there are some weird gaps in there, and there are some weird spaces because of just some of the things that I have working on the blog. And I found that works well, and it actually tends to drive more traffic, even directly through Triber, back to my site, and I can track that as well.
Yeah, you know, I do that same thing as well. Now that I've been kind of revisiting Triber, I have sort of a back and forth relationship with Triber. I'll use it for a while, and then I'll get too busy and not go back to it. And recently, I've been visiting it again, and I realized that there's still not a way to truncate your feed. Truncate means that automatically it will end your feed at a certain point and say, read the full blog post on the actual blog. Not a big fan of how it pulls in the entire blog post, making me having to go in and, make people, because, at the end of the day, I spend a lot of time crafting a reading experience that I want people to like. For me, it's about the entire experience. I don't want them reading, as well as Triber has done to make that reading experience really nice. I think it's nice and clean. I want people to get the full thing, the full effect.
Right. Well, and Dustin, you can go in on your WordPress settings, and you can truncate it directly there on WordPress.
Oh, can you?
Yeah. So, because you can set it and you can set it to either to show an excerpt, and if you haven't, in which case it will show if you have a manual excerpt, it will do that, or if you don't have a manual excerpt, it will show X number of things here. And also, if you use an RSS thing that helps you track who's viewing your RSS feed, like FeedBlitz, or used to be FeedBurner. FeedBurner's kind of out now. But if you use anything like those, you can set it to truncate in those.
Right. Yeah, and I do. That's the weird thing. I think what I was doing, though, I just realized this the other day. I use FeedBurner still because it's still up and running. But what I had Triber set to was my URL, Dustn.tv/feed. So it was pulling the direct RSS feed. It wasn't pulling FeedBurner where I have the settings truncated. So that may have fixed it. I haven't published a blog post since I changed that to see if it actually works. But
yeah, the only reason I do it manually is because I like to, my intros set up are designed to try to get you to want to read what the rest of the article is.
Right.
So
well, that's how a great copywriter does it, right? I reread a blog post from Copyblogger the other day. I can't remember how long ago they wrote this, but I've read it probably 3 times, and they said the point of every sentence is to get people to read the next sentence.
The next sentence, right.
Right.
So because those intros are different lengths, setting a manual or setting an automatic truncation on that means that it will either cut off after that intro or in the middle of that intro, depending on where it is. So I go in and I do it manually on there so that I actually have the intro and then it's basically a call to action, right? It's your intro, and then it says, now read it by clicking here. And it goes there. But so, yeah, I can't do that automatically. That has to be done manually.
Great stuff. Thanks for that, Thomas. Carrie Ann, any final thoughts, questions, comments, cries of outrage?
Yeah, I have a quick question, which probably will have a bit of a long answer. When you guys are talking about drafts, like Dustin, you said that you had come up with one blog post and half of a second one, and it was ready in draft form. From that draft form, what does that look like, and how much more time does it take to actually get it ready for publishing?
Somebody's not happy over there.
I know, sorry.
No, it's fine. For me, a draft simply means that the full thought is there. All the words may not be there. They may be a little roughed. I definitely need to be doing some spell checking. I'm a notorious typo felon. So what it means is it's just simply written. Formatting may not be done. Links may not be inserted, and some slight copywriting may still need to happen. But the whole thing is there. From there, I go in, and once it's fully written, or once it's drafted, I then go into editorial mode, where I'm sort of tweaking the sentences, adding, taking away, kind of, just really going through a full-on editorial process. I'll make all my headings, I'll bold, italics, links, and then once that is done, that process probably takes, I would say, an hour. I generally spend an hour in the editing process. And then I'll obviously, once that's done, I'll put in all the images, which I've either done beforehand or in the process of editing. Sometimes I do the images while I'm doing that, because sometimes the ideas are just better when I'm in the middle of the editing process. So yeah, it takes about an hour, and once it's there, it's pretty much done. Once it's through the editing process. Now, that's not the last bit before I hit publish, because then I go through and I tweak all the SEO settings, the social warfare settings. I craft all the social shares, and then now I'm using CoSchedule, which I love, to schedule out all the social messages. And once all that's done, that's probably about another 30 minutes, I'd say. I then either publish or schedule it to publish. And if it's scheduled to publish, I usually put out a little teaser on Google+. I'll take a screenshot of the preview of the page and send it out like Thomas does. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because for me, and Thomas and I have talked about this before, my process is completely different. I do my basic points, and then I jump all over the place, and I edit while I write, which I know is terrible, but it's...
Yeah, they say not to do that.
Yeah.
Some people are just built that way. Sometimes I'm the same way. I guess it really depends on what mood I'm in. Most of the time, I'll just crank it out, and then exactly what I said. But sometimes there's just an idea, or I'm in a particular mood where I'm literally just like that all over the place, because either I'm piecing it together as I write it, or I haven't fully thought through the whole idea, and it's sort of creating itself, and that does happen every now and then. That's a true sign that your creative brain is working, I think.
Yeah, it depends on the flow, because my ideal is to be able to, and this is part of the reason why I have outlines, is so that I have sort of a logical flow to what happens, and that helps me get into a writing mode where I can, as I like to describe it, I vomit out the first draft, and then you go back and clean it all up. But
clean up all the vomit.
Yeah, there are also a lot of times where the flow just isn't coming. I know what I want to say, but the words are not formulating in that sort of creative flow. And so when that happens, a lot of times I'll hit points where, even though I know what I want to say, it's not fashioning itself in my brain, and I have to go back and kind of reread what I've already written in order to kickstart that. And when I get into those modes, now those tend to take me a lot longer to write, but that winds up bringing in a lot of that editing process in the middle of it as well. Because as I go out and I read it out loud, and I realize that I have redundancies, and I realize that I have one word that I've used 7 times in a sentence, and so I go in and I wind up tweaking all of that stuff as I go and as I read, and that also helps get my brain into a mode where then it continues into. So that thought process then continues, and I'm able to keep writing. But that also means that when I'm in a writing like that, which is sometimes extremely painful, but that means that by the time I get to the end of that article, I've actually reread that article 4 or 5 times out loud, and it's already gone through several revisions in the process. So the editing after that takes less time. That becomes more so proofreading at that point, and simplifying. But yeah, so some that takes a lot longer writing process, but it takes a much shorter editing process. So it just kind of depends where your brain is at on that day. Because the flip side is there are days where all of a sudden I catch this surge of inspiration. I'm able to sit down and write, and 30, 40 minutes later, I've got 1,000 words or more written. I've got a complete article that, and I just go back and clean it up and simplify it and everything else, and it just comes out. But that's not always the case. That's the ideal, but it's not always the case.
Awesome. Well, it is 9:46, Thomas. I know you have another hangout on air to go to, so I just want to thank you both for joining me. And I hope to get the next blogging challenge up next month. We try to do these once a month, because more than that, might drive you a little crazy. So we're going to try to do this once a month, and I would love for you guys to join me again. And anybody who's watching this, thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. I'll try and throw up a brief summary of this on Dustn.tv with the tips that we've shared. And I hope you have an awesome rest of your weekend, and go out there and write some blog posts and share them in the comments section. We want to hear what you're writing. I want to read what you're writing. And as a community of bloggers, we know that it's always better doing this thing together and having that support and community of fellow bloggers who are all trying to better each other and better ourselves. It's just better for everyone. Better, better, better. So thank you. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.